For this part of the training, I want to show you guys how you can use the Smart Notebook or the Smart Projector in your room. So every room in the high school is equipped with a Smart Projector, and it has a program on your computer called Smart Notebook. So this can be used to display announcements. It can be used for you. You can write on it to show practice problems, or you can upload files and work through your notes on here. So this is going to be just a training over the basic functions so that you know how to use it. So the first thing you can do is by changing background colors and font colors, you can go through and you can display either important announcements. For example, this is to remind students to bring calculators in class and students that were absent what they can go through and do. You can also display a daily agenda. So the agenda for this particular day was to finish working on a lab packet, and then it was to go through tutorials and notes and to get through a Canvas assignment. So items like these can be projected at the beginning of your class so that when students walk in, they have directions or they're aware of the daily agenda. Another option in Smart Notebook is to display practice problems. So something like this can be displayed at the beginning of class. Students know that they should be walking in, getting out notebooks or packets and working on these problems. Now you can also go through and then write underneath the problem. So once these are displayed up on the board, you can work through these problems with your students, writing directly on each of the different pages. So when you want to display or start a new page, in the bottom left-hand corner, it looks like a page symbol. It's got a green plus sign. If you go ahead and click that, you are going to get a brand new blank white page to work on. Now, there's two ways that you can work on the smartboard. There is a smart pen, and you can also use your finger. One thing to be very conscious of is that whatever you touch your pen to, so if you touch your pen to down at the bottom, all of those pens, if you touch your pen to that, now your pen is going to be whatever it is that you touch. Whatever you touch your finger on, so for example, I just touched the eraser with my finger will erase and my pen will write. So when you click on the pen option with the Smart Pen, you can click at the bottom and you have all of these different options. There's a regular pen, a calligraphic pen, a crayon, a highlighter, so on and so forth. So you can play around with these, but what's important with all of these is that not only once let's say we use the calligraphic pen, it just has smoother lines. We can choose what color we want to write in. So let's say instead of classic black, we want to write in blue. And we can also choose the weight of the pen. So if you choose some of the smaller weights, it's a little bit easier to go forth and see those. So when you go through and you write on here, you can see that everything that you write will come up. Now remember that I had touched my finger to the eraser. So I can go through and I can erase with my finger everything that I've written. Write with the pen, erase right away with an eraser. So this essentially just takes the place of either expo markers and an eraser or a chalkboard, but you're not constantly erasing everything. You don't get those black marks up on the board. Now, another thing that you can do, the way that I made a lot of those other announcement pages, is down on the bottom, if you use your mouse, you can insert a text box. And when you insert a text box, over here on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you can choose the font you want to use. So let's say we want something bold. You can choose the size. And down here, you can also choose the color. So maybe you want orange. When you click on the empty space, you can go ahead and type in. Now, if you want it larger or smaller, you can do that. And then you can also move this around. Now, You can also bold and unbold, italicize, or underline, just like you would in any kind of normal Word document or any other setting. Under that, you can choose to align in the center. And then underneath the size, you can also choose strike through, subscripts, superscripts. You can choose to use bullet points to make a list, or you can choose numbers down at the bottom. Now, if you want to emphasize, so for example, on this page on the side, I have this box around my announcement to make sure students are drawn to that. On the bottom, above where you created the text box, you can create shapes. So once you click on that, say you want something rounded, you can click on the shape you want, and then you get this cursor. You can drag your shape from there. Now, once you've created your initial shape, you want to click on the arrow, click on the shape, and that's where you can go through and you can change the color. So you can change the fill color and the line color. You might not want to fill though, because then you're going to lose the words behind it. You can choose the thickness of the outer line. You can also choose to have it dashed or dotted or some kind of alternating. Then you can also choose the transparency. So maybe if you pick a background color, you can still see the wording behind it. You can change the size of it once you've created it. Maybe you made it too big or too small, and position it that way. You can use the option down here to create different lines. So if you want to create arrows to point your students in the direction of something, if you want to create double arrows to show a connection between two items. Again, just like with the shapes, once you click on it, you can choose a color, you can choose a weight, you can choose whether it's solid, dash, and then you can choose each end. So your line can end up being anything that you want. If you want to delete a page in the bottom left-hand corner, that is where you use that page with the X on it. You can either, to toggle between pages, you can either just click on the pages on the side, or on the bottom left, these arrows will allow you to go back and forth. Now, another thing that you can do is if you have information on a page and you don't want students to see everything right away, there is a screen shade, which is on the bottom left-hand side. If you click on that screen shade, it's going to cover the entire screen. But you can move that shade around. So maybe they only see one question at a time, or maybe you only want them to see half of the page. To turn that screen on and off, you can just click the button. So let's say on this page, I put the screen up. I don't like gray. I want it to be, you can click on the screen to change the color. And then I want them to see the question, but I don't want them to see the answer quite yet. I can leave this screen shade up so that the question is visible, and then I can pull this down so that they're seeing the answers. When I want the screen shade to disappear, I just click that button again. What's really important to remember is that since your pen and your finger work the smartboard, you have to make sure not to brush up against the smartboard. Once you choose that the Smart Pen is going to be a pen, remember that you can choose it to be a crayon. You can choose it to be a highlighter. You can choose for a calligraphic pen, which is just your normal writing. You can always toggle between colors, the thickness of the pen, and the transparency, how light or dark it is. You can choose either your pen or your finger to be an eraser, or you can choose if you click on the calligraphic pen with the Smart Pen and then you use your finger as a highlighter, you can write something and then use your finger to highlight over it. You just have to make sure that whatever your finger touches and whatever the pen touches is what they are going to control. Now, there are a lot more applications that the smartboard can be used for. The smartboard can be used to input games directly into the smart notebook where your students can play. You can insert tables and graphs. You can take screenshots and write over PDFs. But there will be additional training at the end of the year. At the beginning of the year, you just want to make sure that you can turn your smartboard on using a small remote. You can use the pen and you can use text boxes and be able to write on the smartboard in case you want to do activities and problems in your class. If you need additional training, contact Sue Schweitzer. Her email will be in the training module and she can help you with any additional problems that you might have.